David Frankel. I'm here with my co-host Rory Schuler. Welcome.
Good evening,
Rory.
Dave.
And tonight our special guest and a perennial guest actually is Jason Lewis, our local member for the State House. Welcome, Jason.
Good to be with you again.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Jason.
So why don't we get right into it? It's been a very, very busy week, or two or three or four at the State House trying to balance the books. What worries you the most? What's the issue that keeps you up at night?
It is a state budget. I think, as everyone knows, state revenues have been in free fall as a result of the global recession, and income tax revenues are down. Capital gains, nobody's making any money in the stock market or real estate, so that's gone off the cliff. And in fact, as we've been putting together the budget for next year, which starts July 1, so next week is the new fiscal year, the state is facing a $5 billion deficit. $5 billion, which is on a $28 billion budget, that's almost 20%. So the way that was addressed by the House and the Senate, and we're expecting the governor to hopefully sign the budget next week, was 50% of that is through budget cuts. And basically those are the deepest cuts the state has faced in many, many years across the board. About 25% of that is covered by federal stimulus money coming to Massachusetts. And then the other 25% is through primarily the sales tax increase.
Yeah, how much is the sales tax increasing?
It's going to go from 5% currently to 6.25%, which would still place Massachusetts somewhere in the middle relative to other states in their sales tax.
Are they upping gas tax at all?
This budget does not touch the gas tax.
I don't understand that. It seems to me that given all of the other things going on in the economy, that would be a little more logical place. That and things like alcohol and cigarettes and all the things for which there are adverse medical costs or adverse environmental costs, or the cheaper gas is, the more we import it, and the more people drive, the more we have great greenhouse emissions. Those things seem to me to be the perfect place to tax in order to diminish consumption and yet raise revenues. But
well,
the General Sales seems
you make some good arguments, and there's a lot of discussion about this. First of all, nobody wanted to raise taxes in the first place, particularly in the middle of a recession. The only reason that was done was because of this $5 billion deficit, and already cutting programs and by billions of dollars was as deep as we could go. There is a plan to take almost $300 million from the increase in the sales tax to go to transportation needs, because we have the Mass Turnpike, which has an enormous debt burden from the Big Dig, and that needs to get paid. And also the MBTA has been running with a $160 million annual deficit, and that needs to be dealt with. So there is money that's going to be earmarked for transportation. The issue with the gas tax was there is more support in the Boston metropolitan area, where people ride the subway and buses and commuter rail, and they don't want to see fares increase and services cut back, as well as commuters who take the Mass Pike and the North Shore who don't want to see the tolls increase. The problem is, as you go further west in the state, as you go further north and south, those communities are pretty strongly opposed to any increase, because they don't have the benefit of public transportation, and they have to drive to get to work and to school and to errands and so on.
Jason, some of the figures, at least now we have a more concrete idea of how much less in state aid the town of Winchester will be receiving next year as compared to this year and past years. How many hundreds of thousands of dollars less will Winchester get from the state next year?
Well, Winchester is actually one of the communities that's is actually very fortunate, is going to do reasonably well under even this tough budget, and that's because even though there are some cuts in local aid, that is being made up for by federal stimulus money. So Winchester is actually the beneficiary of $800,000, more than $800,000 in federal stimulus money that's going to be allocated to us, and that's going to help make up for education funding deficits, and will at least help to hopefully obviate the need for for more serious budget cuts next year. So that's certainly that. The federal stimulus passed earlier this year is going to have a direct impact in helping our community to preserve teaching jobs, firefighters, police officers, DPW workers, and so on.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it last time. The one thing I didn't understand about dealing with the Mass Pike was why the hell they'd left any tolls on. Again, it'd be much simpler from an administrative collection point of view just to up the gas tax and get rid of all of the things that break up the traffic pattern, which toll booths are not only labour intensive, they actually stop the smooth flow of traffic as well. But
well, I think part of the answer there is we need to get everybody using fast lane, and that would
well, that's true.
that would certainly help to move traffic more quickly.
Yeah.
But it's simply an issue of the more we reduce the tolls or remove them, then the higher the gas tax increase would have to be. And I think again, there was a lot of resistance, and in order to pass, you need a majority of the representatives.
Is that because there's a resistance that they see in the polling data with the public, or is the resistance just in the State House?
Well, I'll give you an example. For our district, which is Winchester and most of Stoneham, the feedback I got from constituents about raising the gas tax, with the understanding that would then keep the tolls, from being raised, and also help to keep fares down on the MBTA. Understanding that was pretty evenly split between people who were supporting that and people who said, I don't support any increase in the gas tax.
Was there any extreme that presented though, like, let's get rid of all of the tolls?
There's always some views, certainly, that would like to do away with all taxes.
Well, not all taxes.
Or
let's just get rid of the tolls and only tax the gas.
Everything, and I sort of hear the views that are on both ends of the spectrum and everything in between. But in this issue of the gas tax, it was quite evenly split for this area. But I heard from some of the colleagues that I serve with, other state representatives, in many of their districts, they were getting 10 to 1, 50 to 1, 100 to 1 against any increase in the gas tax from their constituents. And as I said, that tended to correlate with as you got further away from the
double-edged sword of
metropolitan area.
democracy. I mean, how difficult it is to find a constituency who's going to be all right with getting taxed more heavily in any sector, especially those communities that are lower socioeconomic.
I wonder how they vote on global warming. Is there a
climate
contradiction
change.
in their voting?
I think they've
Climate
changed
change.
that.
Yeah, so that's right.
Yes.
Climate roiling. That's it. Yeah, it's hard to balance those things, isn't it? Everybody wants to have a clean air as long as somebody else pays for it.
It is.
Is I think the view. And we are very distributed in terms of without adequate public transport. Although I have to say Massachusetts seems somewhat better off than a lot of places.
Well, there's a
Coming
lot
from
more.
Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yes, sure, that's true. But relative to a lot of places, let's say in Europe, for example, there's still a long way for us to go with encouraging more public transit, light rail, biking.
And the inventory, I guess, is getting really aged. That Washington crash was a reminder of how the whole public transport infrastructure here in the country is rickety.
Pretty scary, yes. And
it's been a rough few months for public transport and
cell
tragic
phone
accidents
holding, girlfriend calling drivers are sort of.
Well, we do seem to have cracked down on that, at least that issue.
Yeah, that's all tricky stuff.
But we've still got some tough decisions ahead because even this, as I said, this increase in the sales tax, while it's not an easy decision and it is going to have an impact on particularly on our small businesses, on the border, it only
New Hampshire,
raises particularly
that big issue.
Absolutely, it's a real issue. But even so, that as I said, only goes to maybe a quarter of the budget deficit we're facing. And the revenue that's going to be earmarked directly for transportation, again, is sort of the bare minimum to stave off toll hikes and MBTA fare increases. It doesn't begin to deal with the maintenance backlog that we have. That's been estimated at close to $20 billion over the next 20 years. So there's still tough decisions and a lot of work to do in the budget and in transportation.
And I suppose the scary thing is that the premise of the stimulus package is that the federal government won't have to keep borrowing trillions of dollars to sustain even a depressed level of activity. And yet I suppose a little encouragement for the OECD this week to say that they can see some growth coming, whereas somebody else the week earlier had given a really gloomy, like the World Bank or something, given some really gloomy outlook that was predicting like a 2% global decline in GDP and so forth.
No matter the indicators, though, I've really noticed a sense of gloom around just about everybody I know personally. For real people who are really in the thick of it, this recession, in some ways, is just starting to hit home.
Yeah.
Really just starting to cloud over, and could be a really long time till it gets better. But to switch gears just a little bit, I wondered, an interesting topic came up at this week's Selectmen's meeting. Jason, I wondered if you had any interest in maybe getting involved. Some other towns and some other state reps have taken up the cause. In Lexington, for example, their local reps have they're trying to help get utility companies, namely Verizon in this case, to address the double poles that are basically peppering all these towns in this entire area, especially Boston suburbs. They're essentially utility poles which have at some point received some sort of repair or have been changed structurally, and essentially they've just been doubled. At some point, the poles start at the ground and then another pole's basically tacked on. They're ugly. They are some safety concerns. Selectman Roger Berman really said that the towns tried unsuccessfully, and there was some fairly fierce, bitter debate about it at the Selectmen's meeting. They were discussing a digging contract. Some folks from the town showed up to voice their opposition to approving the contract, but ultimately, despite all the fierce debate and complaining, it passed really without a problem. But I wondered, Jason, if you had heard of any of your fellow legislators talking about this double pole issue, and whether or not you think there's another approach, a way to give some teeth to the regulations that actually do say that these poles, can only, I think there's a certain amount of time that they're allowed to stand. That interests you at all?
I haven't talked to anyone else specifically about this, but certainly familiar with the concerns, and I have heard from from a number of people. So I think it's something that I would look to work with our selectmen on in terms of what we're trying to do locally and what we've discussed with Verizon already, and what to try to come up with some ideas for how else we can push them forward.
I mean, to me, it's always it's just so hard for anybody to get answers from huge nameless corporations like Verizon. But these companies rely on small towns like Winchester to, basically without small towns where they operate and have their fairly exclusive contracts, they wouldn't exist. But even the selectmen, as you can read some of the quotes in the story from Tuesday night, they just can't get an answer.
Can we just take a break for a second? I want to invite our viewers to join the conversation. They have only to call in at 781-721-2050. It's up on the screen. So please do ask any questions you like of Jason.
So anybody feels strongly about a double pole in their neighborhood, call and let us
yes,
know.
all those double pole rejecting folks. Or any other questions that you'd like to ask your local State House member. I noticed that now that we've had 3 speakers of the House indicted, that the Ethics and Lobbying Reform Bill got passed. Can you give us a sort of a little bit of a summary of what, in essence, the content of that is, and what it was, the behind the scenes view was of actually getting it passed? Was there much resistance to it, or was it warmly embraced, or how did it go down?
This was one of my proudest days today, I would say, being in the state legislature. I was been serving since January, and there has been a pall over our legislature and our state government. Certainly, everyone knows the string of scandals that we've had, starting with Diane Wilkerson and the alleged bribery case, and then most recently with the recent Speaker DeMacy. And I think it's so important that we work hard to rebuild public trust and confidence in our government. particularly in a time like this where we almost need government more than ever when you're in a recession and when you're trying to reform healthcare and help people who are out of work. So I think this ethics and lobbying reform bill, along with also reforming our public pension system, which has had some really egregious abuses, in our transportation system, which we just talked about, were, I think, the three pillars of trying to implement some reforms that have been long-standing problems.
Yeah, there was kind of some double dipping going on in the...
Well, on the pension side, there's been some... The Globe has done a good job, I think, of running stories about some of those abuses, and they've been outrageous. And the vast majority of public employees, work hard and pay into the pension system, and they earn a modest pension after they retire. But there are some who've taken advantage of these loopholes, and that was dealt with a few weeks ago. That there was a final bill that passed the House and Senate. Governor signed it, so that's law now.
Will there be any retrospectivity with the people that have been doing this double dipping? Will they lose that double dipping, or is that only going forward?
The big thing that was in that law that a lot of a number of people, myself included, were pushing for, and others were opposing, was to have all of the changes in that law apply to all current state employees and elected officials, as opposed to just new hires. There were some who argued that current employees had joined the pension system with certain expectations, and you shouldn't change that midstream. I did not agree with that. I did not agree with that view, and I felt like these were changes that should have been made before. These are
I became a toll booth collector because I saw a loophole in the pension law.
I was able to pocket half of the money, but
so that
now I can only pocket a quarter. It's really so much tougher. Yes.
Exactly. So that was very good news when that bill came out. So it basically, as of July 1st, any state employee, any elected official who retires will now
be under that rule.
But those who have already retired. Those who have already retired, I don't know. I'm not an attorney, so I can't speak to what could happen there in terms of changing their pension. What the pension.
I mean, you can make legislation retrospective, but it doesn't.
We
sound
didn't
like
in this
did.
case, and I imagine some of that can be up to the pension board to revisit some of those cases, but that's going to be up to them. In terms of the ethics legislation, that started back in, when was that, February or March, that the House of Representatives first took up a bill. It passed the House, it then went to the Senate. The Senate passed their version of the bill. They weakened some things, they strengthened one or two areas, particularly in the open meeting law. They added some strong provisions there. Then a conference committee was convened, and they've been working for about 6 weeks to try to iron out the differences and
Can you
hopefully come up with
tell us a little bit about
bill.
the new additions to the open meeting law?
There's. Let me just say before I get to that, in terms of what's in this bill, there's it strengthens our ethics laws, our lobbying laws, our campaign finance, and open meeting. So those are the 4 areas. In terms of open meeting,
and the campaign finance laws already.
Campaign finance
quite
already
strong relative to the rest of the country.
And that's true, and that's actually true of our ethics and lobbying laws as well. But that just says probably the standard is too low in other parts of the country.
The bar is very low, particularly if you get south of the Mason-Dixon line.
That's right. So I think there was a clear need for improvement in all these areas. But in open meeting law, there's provisions that require, for example, when a public meeting is posted, that there also would include the agenda, for example, where possible. It also clarifies. For a long time, there's been confusion with emails. So is that when people send emails, if they're serving on the Board of Selectmen together or the school committee, the planning board, is that considered a violation of open meeting law? And this clarifies that if that's substantive information and it's shared with more than a quorum in terms of the number of members of that board or committee, then that would could constitute open meeting law violation. So there's a clarification there. So there's a lot of other things like that help to kind of clarify.
So more than quorum on, say, a 3-man board would be 2 individuals.
I guess that would be 2.
But say on a 5-man board, 3 of those individuals would have to be.
That's my understanding. That would be 3, right? And at most, I mean, I serve on the finance board in Winchester, so quite familiar with this. And most of our, I think, boards and committees have already been functioning this way to be safe and be conservative. In terms of the ethics law, there's much Stronger penalties, for example, for things like bribery and other offenses, can be up to 5 years in prison. There's also much stronger enforcement powers given to the Attorney General and the Ethics Commission to subpoena and to enforce the laws. Lobbyists, much stricter rules around requiring lobbyists to register and definition of lobbyists, so people can't sort of operate in a gray area.
And how soon can they become a lobbyist after leaving
I
office?
believe that's 2 years.
Okay, 2 years would be
So I
good.
think it's 2. It's either 1 or 2 years after leaving the legislature.
'Cause
So
that
there's
is a big
some
problem
yes.
everywhere, isn't it? Just a
And
mess.
there's also a very good provision in the bill that basically does away with any opportunity to give gifts to public officials or influence their behavior. The law already dealt with a lot of that, but this has tightened the law even more, cleared up some areas where there might have been some confusion. So to make sure that the intent is to make sure people aren't improperly influencing public officials. And I think, unfortunately, no law can completely stop criminal behavior, but it can help to send a very strong signal that if public officials do the wrong thing, they'll be held accountable.
That would be good. It would be nice to see that happen federally.
We
But,
need that at all levels of government.
But
right?
I think it's going to be a long time.
So this bill's now in
Right.
front of Governor Patrick, and so hopefully he will sign it into law
Yeah,
tomorrow
I'd
or
be
early
surprised
next
if
week.
he didn't. I mean,
Yep.
it would be contrary to at least my view of his ethics.
I
But,
would expect he will.
How is he doing? I must say I still retain a great deal of affection for him as a governor and a potentially even future presidential candidate. But the more I read of and see his opinion poll numbers fading, and I find it kind of distressing. What's your sense of the public view of him, of the State House view of him, and his prospects for the future?
It's certainly been very challenging for him. I mean, he's had to deal with the economy and the grim state budget that we're facing. It was I don't think it was his making. He inherited it, and it's required some very difficult decisions in terms of spending cuts, in terms of the tax increases we talked about. He's had his share of well-publicized missteps. That obviously hasn't helped. But I was just in a town meeting with him. Was over in Arlington the other night, and he's making an effort to go out to all parts of the state over the summer, and he's very impressive in town meetings, and he's very knowledgeable on such a wide range of issues. He's
And very warm.
he's
very
very warm.
engaging.
He's very engaging. He understands the issues. He cares deeply about people and their concerns. He listens well. And so I think the more that he kind of gets back to his grassroots and why he was so successful when he campaigned and connects with people,
Brilliant campaign. I thought.
I think he'll be fine in the election next year.
I certainly hope so. I've been cued to shift to the Winchester headlines, Winchester Star headlines, and I'm going to be completely self-serving here and say that the two of the more interesting columns in recent times were yours and mine. But no, to be serious.
Well, I'll let you say that. Not me.
No, the health insurance issue is such a big issue in this country. It's a big budget issue. It's a big humanitarian issue. To me, it seems that the debate got the best plans got shot before they even got out of the gate, with Obama, the White House, basically saying we're not going to touch single payers off the table before we start, which I thought was kind of kissing up to the big health insurance plans long before any such capitulation, if ever, was warranted, and in a way seemed to me to blow the opportunity for dramatic and lasting change. And I contrast that with Gough Whitlam back in '73 in Australia, coming into office for the first time since World War II with a left-wing government, or left of centre, and daring to do that is virtually the first thing they did after years of exactly the system you got here, all private health insurance, total missed coverage over a large number of people, all of those issues. What's your feeling about what's happening, where it should end up? What's wrong with the process itself?
I mean, it is such a huge concern for so many people and so many businesses, and it's also the biggest share of, we were just talking about our state budget, this is the biggest share of our budget is healthcare expenses as well. So it affects all aspects of our, of our economy. I think the first thing I would say is I'm so pleased to see that our president and Congress are making this a priority right away. I mean, the president said he would, and he is. And he could have said, well, I've got to deal with the economy, I've got to deal with, Pakistan, Afghanistan, North Korea, and we're going to put this on hold. And I'm very glad he didn't do that. In terms of how it's shaping up, I think first piece that's critical is we've got to get to universal coverage. I believe healthcare is a basic human right, shouldn't be a luxury that only the wealthy can afford. So it does seem like all the discussion in Washington does revolve around some model that would provide universal coverage,
here
at least as a starting point.
Ironically here, it's the wealthy and the very poor. It's the in-betweeners
that
are getting
right.
really
Yeah,
hammered.
it's the people who work for a
families
living.
That's right.
Dave and I were discussing briefly, but in my mind, it's more and more turning into this massive conspiracy theory, where the wealthy in this nation, who are, for the vast majority, the employers, at least the large employers, know that they have an unbreakable control over their employees by controlling, basically what it comes down to a major part of their life, in healthcare. Number one, American employees are less productive because most of them aren't doing what they truly want to do for a living, because they can't break away from the job where they currently are to look for something better, because that's where their health care is tied up.
Right.
And
That's why I don't understand why American corporations themselves are not the biggest proponents of single payer, because it seems like they're fighting their own interests, and I find that quite bewildering.
I think they're coming around. I think they've been concerned about such wholesale change, because they just in general are concerned about a change, and that is major change. But I think they've certainly come to the table on healthcare reform in a way that they did not before. When we tried this under
we have
President Clinton.
the nation's capital is just full of politicians who made sure to lay out at the very beginning of this healthcare debate that single payer was off the table. But these same politicians who typically run their entire, their whole methodology of legislation based on polling data, are totally ignoring the 70% of Americans who prefer the single payer method, or at least something the more true, but something that resembles it. And I just can't, besides the very healthy lobbying system put out there by healthcare.
You hit the nail on the head. That's what it is. You've got a health insurance industry and others who make billions of dollars today from the current system, and they are fighting tooth and nail to make sure they keep that. They keep
Maybe we
piece,
need ethics and lobbying reform first, followed by health insurance, because without that, it's very hard to.
Those interests have a real stranglehold.
I apologise. We've zipped through our 30 minutes at like astronomical speed, and
do we have time for one more headline?
One more headline, please.
I would like to not go beyond too much further without giving a shout out.
Next time we have a time with
absolutely to a Winchester resident
right.
won a gold medal this past weekend. John Dunleavy. He's a Winchester High School student.
Right.
He competed in the 25-meter freestyle swimming event, won a gold medal at Harvard University this weekend, the Massachusetts Special Olympics. So there's a full story on here, and on our website there's video of him actually winning the race.
Right.
Oh, that's very cool.
I think a lot of people should reach out and congratulate John. And he works at Fells Hardware downtown, if anybody wants to start.
It's very impressive. There were kids from all over the whole state.
He beat two past winners and last year's winner.
Oh, that's impressive.
And it was his first year.
So go to
competing.
wickedlocal.com/Winchester.
Absolutely.
And you'll see exactly what what Rory's talking about. Switching your names now.
No problem.
So, well, thank you very much for coming on. I'm sorry we didn't get through more of the subjects. There's so much to discuss and debate at the moment that there's hardly know where to start. But
Well,
it's
thank you. Always pleasure
to
to
have
be
you.
on, and it's good to see that we are making some progress on some of these tough issues at the state and local level, and we just need to keep pushing hard.
We appreciate you coming on every time. I look forward to next month.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank
Take
you.
care, Jason. All the best. I know you've got to get. Okay, welcome back to Talk of the Town Live. Again, here with Rory Schuler, my favourite co-host from the Winchester Star. And tonight we have two very special guests, Karina and Andrew, and I missed your last name.
Kurban.
Kurban.
Yes.
And they're here to talk about some very interesting programs that they've been dealing with for many years, involving helping underdeveloped countries with getting clean water supplies.
Correct. Actually, we started this program this year. I've been doing missionary work for the past almost 20 years, giving back time and energy with a lot of other people to perform surgeries, medical and dental, all over the world.
Right.
And we decided that we need to incorporate another aspect of our mission while we are not there, because we're only in each country for about 2 weeks per year. So the other 50 weeks, we decided to come up with something that is tangible and gives back to society in a very meaningful way. And we decided water is the easiest and best way to deal with that.
Can you explain to the audience a little bit about your background? What led you to this point in your life that you wanted to do this?
It's a long story, but the gist of it is, I think we live in a very lucky environment here in the United States. Even though I was born in Baltimore, I lived for about 15 years in Beirut, Lebanon. And due to the civil war there, coming back here to the States is a haven, and I wanted to give something back. So a bunch of physicians and dentists got together, about 5 of us, and we formed Medical Missions for Children about 10 years ago. And we're in 10 different countries around the world, and we have 12 missions a year, and we are actually opening up in China and opening up another mission in the Philippines, and we would like to continue that work.
Well, that's very worthy.
Thank you.
So which countries have you had an opportunity to travel to yourself so far?
I've been to Guatemala, Ecuador, Peru, Tanzania, India, Bhutan, and Nepal myself.
Wow.
It's quite a list.
That's quite a list. It does appear that water is water and energy are possibly the two big, apart from their effect on the environment.
Absolutely.
Are the two really big, sort of sustainability of life issues.
Correct.
What can you do to help people economically get? I guess it's potable water that is really what you're
Correct.
talking
It's
about.
access to clean water. You see, the problem is that next to air that we all breathe, next to oxygen, water is the next most vital thing to us. More people die from unclean water than all wars combined in the world. About 400 people die every minute. More than 10,000 people die every day. More than 3.575 million people a year. And it's a staggering number, and all they need is clean water. And
And the consequence of not having it is things like dysentery and other sort of
diarrhea, and 80% actually of all diseases in hospitals are related to unclean water. If you solve the water problem, half the hospital beds are emptied out.
Wow.
There was a conference
Staggering.
last year in California for medical missions throughout the world. At the conclusion of that conference, they determined that if 3 medical teams are in a village for 2 weeks, at the end of those 2 weeks, the impact actually is less than giving that village clean water. And that's how this was developed. It's a no-brainer, basically. We're there for 2 weeks, and the rest, there's nothing being done. And my
So
daughter...
it's not a
and-
sustainable solution to do that unless you had a very big army of people going around.
Correct.
I've read, being somewhat of a technologist myself, quite a bit about some of the new, relatively low-cost ways to clean water. That, other than these big treatment plants, which are huge capital costs, seems to me like there's some emerging, simple, low capital costs, but probably effective ways to clean water up. Can you talk a little bit about some of those and what's happening to get them into the right hands?
When we research what are the different avenues of giving back in a huge way, one of the things that I was really intrigued by is called biosand filters. And a lot of nonprofits in the United States use that. And it's a patent that was developed in Canada that's been given to all NGOs for free. And a biosand filter is very easy and inexpensive to use. That's why we developed the program called 143. And basically it's you buy 1 bottle and it'll actually save 3 lives because it's so minimal. It's $5 per person.
Wow.
And you can deliver clean, potable water for basically years to come. And a biosand filter basically is a concrete container that has different grades of sand, and it uses just gravity to filter water, and 100% of parasites and 90% of bacteria are filtered through, and you
Wow,
get
that's
clean
impressive.
water.
I've got a question for both
Please.
of you, if you could maybe take them one at a time. And it's the same question for the two of you. But was there an epiphany moment or something that just told you that this sort of missionary work was for you? You know, some sort of revelation that you had that said, I need to go help people who don't quite have it as well as I do. And since Karina is a Winchester High School student who also is somewhat following in your footsteps in this arena, I understand you've joined your father in some missions.
Yeah, I joined him in Ecuador in 2005, the summer of 2005, and I recently went with him to Guatemala in January. So I guess I've always kind of grew up with my dad going on these trips, so it's just been part of a lifestyle for me. And I guess sort of the epiphany for this project would be that I don't have any training in the medical field, and so for MMFC, Medical Missions for Children, it's really great what they're doing, but there are only a limited amount of people who have medical degrees or have training in the medical field. So I really thought that this project would be something that just any person could do, and just very simple and would be effective even when medical teams aren't there.
Excellent. You, Dr. Corbin.
It's very similar to what Karina is saying. We joined together as physicians and dentists to bring about medical missions for children. And you can count usually the percentage of people that are willing to help in the medical field. But there's so many people, lay people, that want to do something, want to give back. And this is such an easy program that impacts not only people worldwide in such a huge manner, but also here at home. And the advantage of having the stainless steel bottles are manifold in the impact in the United States, especially here in Winchester.
So these are essentially are these the bottles that you're purchasing, or?
Yes, these are actually two samples. The container actually arrived a couple days ago, and we're in the process of getting the container out of customs and storing the stainless steel bottles in basements and attics of friends of ours in order to save money.
Let's see.
I understand Karina was involved, or you designed the
Yeah, I designed the logo.
There you go.
After 4 or 5,
prototypes.
eight revisions that we had to go through, and she was
criticized.
Oh, really?
positive criticism, of course.
That's how things work.
Yeah, with design, that's the downside of doing design for anybody. Trust me, it's been there.
Can each of you recall a specific individual that you've encountered on one of these trips who you know that you've helped and their reaction was something that would stay with you?
I mean, this was when I was about 12 in Ecuador, and I don't know if this is the kind of thing that you're talking about, but when I was in Ecuador, I worked as my dad's dental assistant, and we only had one anesthesia room, so, and then the other 2 chairs, like, we had the kids that we thought could handle getting teeth extracted without complete anesthesia would go there. And I remember there was this one girl named Vivian, and she had to get, I don't know, like 3 teeth extracted, I think, and she couldn't have anesthesia, and I just remember her, being so brave, and I held onto her hand the whole time, and being 12 years old, the most I could do was like blow bubbles and hold their hands and, speak to them in Spanish and stuff. But I just remember at the end of the trip, she gave me a teddy bear that said con cariño, which means like with dear, or, so that really stayed with me. I still have the bear, it's in my room, but.
Excellent. That's exactly what I meant. Hey, Dr. Corbin, is there?
There's so many instances of people giving whatever they have. Most of the people we treat have nothing. And if you actually go to our website, www.mmfc.org, there's various
to bring
clips
that up on the screen. What's up before?
There are several
individuals.
links to the site on our site as well.
Okay.
Correct. And it's just amazing. I mean, we have people giving us chickens because that's all they have, because they're so grateful for what we do for them.
Probably have a hard time bringing those back home, though.
Yes, of course.
So, Karina, I understand you helped get Winchester High School involved in this program.
Yeah, we did a presentation. My dad and I did a presentation for Connecting Commit in February, and we actually thought that more people would be involved, but we ended up launching the project at the MMFC Gala on May 1st with a few of my friends who are also involved in Connect and Commit, Valerie Bradley, Liza Pine, Tommy Pine, and then my brother, AJ. So they've been
Don't forget.
involved in this also.
Excellent. Well, how can people help? Maybe if you could tell our viewers just how they can help you guys.
We're
meet your
in the
goal.
middle of launching our website, Rory, but the easiest way is to go to info@4.3.org. Hopefully the website will be launched in a couple of weeks and it'll be up and running. But also our existing website, mmfc.org, has a link to 143.org.
Well, make sure you let us know when the other one's up and running. We'll
We
provide a few
definitely
links for
will. Thank you,
you.
Rory.
Excellent.
What's it like to practice medicine in these very remote places too? What are the challenges you face in
It's
terms
a-
of hygiene and power and all the sort of things we take for granted, air conditioning?
That is a good question. Initially, when we started back in '91, physicians were working in the hospital, and we used to go out in a van and do basically rudimentary dentistry, and a lot of it was extractions. And then we decided to incorporate ourselves with the physicians. So what I actually do is we put handicapped people to sleep because nobody else can treat them. Autistic, mentally and physically severely handicapped kids that nobody can actually do anything with. So being part of a medical group, we have anesthesiologists and cardiologists that come down with us.
Right.
So basically we pack a hospital and we transport it by air. And slowly we are building operating rooms and hospital sites at all the countries that we go to. In Rwanda, for instance, the regional hospital in Gitwe that we are working at, the hospital had been in existence for 16 years, but never did any general surgical operations until MMFC came, and 4 years ago we opened up the first OR, and then this year we opened up the second operating room.
That's kind of amazing dedication. And how do you fund all of this? There must be a way to generate considerable funds to execute all of that.
Actually, we're one of the most efficient organizations around. Before the tax law changed, actually, we used to be about 98 to 99% tax efficient, meaning that every dollar, 98.5 cents went to actual services. Because I donate 100% of my time, and so do so many other people, and we only have 2.5 full-time employees.
Wow,
But
that
the
is
services
efficient.
that we give back are just incredible, and I cannot do, and neither can anybody without the help of so many other dedicated people.
Now, can people? I assume they can donate to your. You have a foundation, or
Correct.
and so if they go to your website, they can find a way to get funds to you.
Exactly. Right.
Very good.
If you could give us an idea on how donations would break down, how much the bottles cost, for example, or
Yes, I think we've got on the screen.
There we
To
go.
buy bottles, the information contact is info@143.org. But so, what are the prices and selling points? So where can they buy them?
Well, this bottle, the larger one, which is 27 ounces or 800 milliliters. This one is $20, and the smaller one, which is 500 milliliters or 18 ounces, is $15. And what we've done so far, since we haven't actually had the bottles, is we've been having postcards, and people can pre-order them. So we had a booth at Town Day where people could fill out their contact information, say how many bottles they want, what kind of top they'd want, and we'd contact them when the bottles came and we'd deliver them. So that's what we've been doing so far.
Now, these bottles don't actually filter water. They're for per se. So that
people would buy these bottles for themselves so that
Right.
people elsewhere would
can have filtered water.
filtered water.
Absolutely correct. There's the logo. Actually, 143 has 3 parts to it. So
Well, yeah, like my dad said, there are 3 goals of this project. The first is obviously to provide safe access to clean water for the villagers in Antigua and Gitwe, and the second is to educate them on the importance of health and sanitation and clean water, as well as to educate those here on the real facts of water and plastic and what it's doing to our environment. And the third, and probably which will affect more locally, is to reduce the carbon footprint made by plastic water bottles.
I see. Where are these bottles made? Or how are they made? Or could you tell us a little bit about how they're actually more friendly than, say, a plastic bottle?
Historically, we have been using plastic bottles to carry around that has tap water, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the unfortunate thing about plastic bottles is they emit BPA, bisphenol A, which has been proven to be carcinogenic at very, very low amounts. So after the plastic bottles, people have been buying aluminum bottles. But the problem with aluminum, it's very expensive to mine, plus it leaves an aftertaste. So you have to usually line it. And the liner is usually plastic, which brings us back to the initial problem. These bottles...
Very energy intensive too.
Yes, exactly. These bottles are 304 grade, which is 18.8 stainless steel grade, which is what people use in hospitals, what beer manufacturers use. It's the highest quality usable stainless steel. So we researched the market, and Clean Canteen, which is one of the largest manufacturers and sellers in the United States, makes exactly the same bottle, except that theirs is 0.5 millimeters thick and ours is 0.6, because a lot of our friends complain that they dent very easily. So we went a little bit above, and we are delivering the bottles. They're FDA approved.
Yeah, it's got pretty good compression.
Thank you. Yes.
Resistance.
Now, going back to your question about do they filter water? They don't. A study was done last year at the NRDC. They compared 103 different manufacturers that sell bottled water. And they looked at 1,000 bottles. And at the conclusion of the research, a third of those bottles had contaminated water with arsenic, organic material, and bacteria. And that same study concluded that tap water is just as good. Here in the United States, we're very lucky, especially in Winchester, because a gallon of tap water is about a penny compared to if you buy it, it's between $1 to $8 a gallon.
Yeah.
So you save yourself in the wallet, you are healthier because you don't have any BPA, and then you save the environment in 3 different ways. Pollution, because only 14% of plastic bottles are actually recycled. And the second is the manufacturing of the plastic bottles. And the third is the transportation of plastic bottles from the manufacturing facility to wherever you buy them, and then from there home.
So these are ecological, economical, and also ethical as well.
Exactly.
There's an
So everybody
interesting,
wins.
Interesting image that we've got on the screen here of just the kind of waste disposal that these disposable bottles, the plastic bottles, have created. I assume that's what that's illustrating.
Exactly. Unfortunately, in the United States, 28 billion plastic bottles are consumed, and 25.5 billion bottles end up in trash.
And these are plastics that are all, I presume, petroleum derived, are they?
Correct. To produce those 28 billion, it takes 17 million barrels of oil to produce. So one is you save the production, but you save the environment manyfold.
Right, so if we want to stop importing oil, we should stop consuming plastic bottles.
Exactly.
That would
Thank
be-
you. Then we help the Obama administration, we help the environment, we help ourselves.
Help
If
our
we-
geopolitical position.
Yes.
If one person uses a stainless steel bottle instead of buying plastic bottles, then 400 fewer bottles will end up in landfills and the ocean every year. So if you multiply, that's just one person. So if we can just get more and more people to convert, I guess, to stainless steel, then
That's a very worthy mission. You can certainly, one great facility we have in Massachusetts here is almost every town has, well, many towns have access TV stations just like this. And I'd certainly recommend doing the circuit of taking the story into the other towns, because it's one, as you're finding yourself, one town at a time is how the battle's being fought, one school at a time. And it sounds like you're making huge progress in fighting that battle. It must be very exciting for you as someone just in high school.
yeah, I just
Great
finished
experience.
my junior year, so it's very stressful. But I'm really glad to be doing this. And
Yeah, it's a life experience you cannot get in a schoolroom. They talk about the difference between active learning and passive learning. And I think what you're getting is the ultimate in active learning experiences. It'll stay with you a lifetime.
It is. It's one I'm very proud to have Karina work with me, but it's a lot more fun to be able to do this with her. Plus, we brainstorm, and she brings up different ideas. And now we're working on the website. So it's a project that's continuously evolving, which is half the fun, because we're creating another non-for-profit business, and it's a green field, so a lot of aspects can go into it, and your idea of us going into different towns and cities also is a great idea.
For the people at home, how can they help you sell the bottles?
Right.
well, one of the options on the postcards that we have are to have 20 bottles and then sell them to relatives, or if you're from a different town, to just sell them. So that's one way that they can help sell them. We also are planning to have them in local stores and at sporting events and school stores and fitness centers. So
And a great gift.
yeah, a
too.
great gift.
By a few, and they're light enough for people in athletics to carry them in lieu of the plastic bottles, I would think, too.
Exactly.
They're not
And they're easily cleansable, just soap and water. And because it's medical grade, it is very, very healthy. There's no leaching of any material. And you can put different juices and water, and it stays nice and clean.
You know, imagine it can be dropped safely,
Yes,
except on
but
your
not
foot.
too many times.
Except on your foot. Well, this wouldn't shatter, would it? If
No.
it dropped? But it might dent.
It might then, correct.
Yeah. So when is your next mission? And where is it going to be?
Funny, because I got an email today. I just donated, actually this past year, I donated my whole dental clinic, because we built a new one. And we donated it to Quito, Ecuador, to open up a pro bono dental facility at the hospital that we've been working at for the past 10 years. And they want us to come down in order to oversee the installation and make sure that it's up to par. And that will be open, instead of us being there for 2 weeks, it'll be open 52 weeks for U.S. dentists to go down and donate their time and services and give back in a different way.
Well,
That's wonderful. Well, we've unfortunately come very rapidly to the end of our half hour with you. I wanted to thank you, Andrew and Karina, for coming on, and certainly to encourage our viewers to go to your website again, which is, the website is
www.mmfc.org.
Right.
And also, in the
I'm hoping
future,
they
it
bring
will
up the
be
graphic. Oh, no, we're getting our credits instead. So, yeah, why don't you give them one more time?
.mfc.org and 3.org. And for now, because the website isn't up and running, it's info@143.org.
and we will have all the links on the STARS website if anybody.
So thank you, Rory, again for a great show.
No, thank you,
Nice
Dave.
to have you. We'll look forward to
Nice
seeing
to
you
see you
next
again.
time. Thank you very much again. And thank you, Winchester. Good night. And look forward to seeing you here next time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Pleasure.